Hi guys, this is Chris with High Power Cycles, and I wanted to talk to you guys today about how to choose an electric bike. There are a lot of bikes on the market right now. The market's getting flooded with bikes from all over. Most of these companies are going to go straight to China. They're going to see a bike that they think it looks cool, and they're going to say, hey, I have a new company, it's called so-and-so. Make me 50, 100 of these, just put my logo on it, okay? So pretty soon after, they'll have a big cargo shipment of bikes straight from China, and they'll have a name on it, and pretty soon a new company's born. And that's what most of the bikes you're going to see on the market is. It's the same bike made in China. You have to be careful because a lot of these bikes are poor quality. Some are okay. So you kind of got to go through the specifications of the bike, make sure you know what you're getting for brakes, suspension, etc. At High Power Cycles, we're actually one of the few companies in the United States that are pushing for US built bikes, right? So not only do we build every single bike from scratch, from a bare frame in our facility here in Chatsworth, California, but we even now manufacture the frames and design the frames from scratch here in California. This is our Revolution, this is our Halo bike, this is our big 8 to 9.5 inch travel heavy duty downhill electric mountain bike. So there are a couple companies in the United States that pursue a similar thing that we're doing, and we want to give a shout out to OptiBike, which has been in the game for a little bit longer than us, and they are still pumping out bikes made in Boulder, Colorado, so we want to give them a thumbs up. And also, we want to give a shout out to another company that if you don't have the budget for our starting bikes start around $2,000. Prodeco Tech in Florida also does a good job, and they build their bikes in Florida with US workers, so we want to give them a shout out as well. That's pretty cool. We're excited to see that as well. So making a bike in the US is no easy feat with labor. It takes us anywhere from 18 to 30 hours from the point when we have a bare frame to do all our testing protocol, to test everything, make sure everything's running well, to build the bike and have it ready to be shipped out. We enjoy doing it because it gives us a sense of pride to build these bikes here in the United States. And each bike is built by one person. So after every bike is built, one of our builders is going to sign off on the bike when it's completed, and he's going to be responsible for the project start to finish. Going back to the Chinese built bikes, the companies that get their Chinese bikes, literally, like I said, they have a logo and not much else changes usually. And literally the bikes come ready to go, so you can order from them and you can get a bike quickly because they don't have to do any work at all. It's all ready to go. When you buy a bike from us, we literally will build it to your order, to your specifications. Once we get the order submitted, we're going to start building your bike and getting all the components together to build it how you want it. That's why it takes a little bit longer, on average anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to get a bike from us built from scratch. Now I want to talk about how to choose an electric bike. Okay? The most important thing is battery choice. You do not want to skimp on your battery. That is really important. You do not want a cheap Chinese battery and cheap out on the cells and get something that could cause problems, not be reliable, potentially cause fires and trouble for you later on. You want to get a good brand name cell. Okay? You want to talk to the vendor and make sure they know what they're talking about when you ask them battery questions. You want Samsung, Sanyo, Panasonic, Sony. One of the big Japanese cells manufacturers, you want to get those cells in your bike. It'll be more reliable in the end, it'll be a little more expensive, but it's going to save you in the end, and that's really important. The next thing is frame. You want to make sure that you have a good, if you're getting a mountain bike, you want an aluminum frame, right? You want to make sure that you can get pictures of the frame, make sure the welds look good, and you don't have spotty or shoddy workmanship on the frames themselves. I've seen some Chinese frames literally that had gaps in the welds and were terrible in structural places too. So you want to make sure you get good workmanship on whatever frame you're going to be getting. Also on the frame, if you have a hub motor or if you have a little bit higher power system, you want to look at the dropouts. You want to make sure that the dropouts can support the kind of power you're going to put through it. You want to make sure you have thick dropouts, and a lot of times you even want to make sure that the dropouts have an external torque arm to keep the motor from spinning inside the frame and spinning out your dropout. So that's another important issue. We're going to go on to suspension. You do not want a cheap steel coil fork. It's literally going to be like dead weight. It's not going to work. You want to stick to something brand name. If you want a cheaper suspension that's decent, maybe go for something like an SR Sunter. That's a good, reputable brand that makes the lower end forks. If you want higher end, get something RockShox or Fox. All of our bikes come with RockShox. So even our entry-level hardtails, we have air suspension standard. So for 2016, it's called the RockShox Recon Silver, and that's going to be our standard air fork on our mountain line. And differences between a coil and an air fork. So an air shock is going to have adjustability built in. You're going to be able to adjust it for the rider weight, your terrain that you're going to be running on, if you want a more firm ride, or if you want it to be more supple. You can really have a lot of adjustability built into the air suspension because you can fill it with air, literally. So another advantage of air suspension is you're going to save over a pound of weight over a similar coil shock. So it's going to be lighter weight and perform better in most cases. So now we're going to talk about the rims. You want to make sure you have good rims, all right? So I've literally seen terrible quality pot metal aluminum double wall rim. So just because it says double wall does not mean it's a good rim. You want to make sure that it's a good reputable brand that makes that rim. So you don't want a rim that's just going to taco when you jump off a curb for the first time. And it happens. It's pretty crazy what they'll sell to you these days. Another really important thing is who's lacing your wheels. A lot of times when we have gotten in Chinese laced rims, there's no attention to detail. There's no attention to detail in the tension between the drive side and non-drive side spokes. They're all uniform. It's all, a lot of times we've seen them just all over tightened. Spokes matter a lot. Spokes are going to be your most important and most crucial item to having a strong wheel. So check the brand name of the spokes. At High Power Cycles, we only use Phil Wood spokes, right? That's pretty much the best spoke that you can get. It's a stainless steel spoke. Phil Wood's a company here in the United States. We actually cut and cold roll each and every individual spoke here on our spoke machine at High Power Cycles when we build a bike, right? So there's different spoke lengths for the drive side and non-drive side, and there's different spacing on every single bike that we have. Each wheel on every bike and every different motor has to be dished differently to be exactly centerline in the bike that we produce. Check the brand of the spokes, it matters. I mean, you can really get a cheap steel spoke from China that's gonna break and snap. Another thing to check the angle of the nipple. So you wanna make sure that it's as straight as possible. A lot of times on these wheels that get built, the spoke will come in at an angle to the nipple, and over time when you ride it, it's just gonna snap right there. It's way too much stress, especially if you have a big 12 gauge spoke. It doesn't matter if it says 12 gauge spoke, that doesn't mean it's stronger than, say, a 13, 14 Supreme or Phil Wood single butted spoke. Make sure that this is straight. So like for all our 2016 models, we actually have custom rims that are 3D drilled to the exact hub that it's going to be laced to. So we make sure we get a line that's as straight as possible from the spoke to the nipple. That's crucial for having strength and having longevity in a wheel. Check what kind of inner tubes are in your tires. A lot of times if you get a cheap bike, they're going to cheap out and give you a thin bicycle inner tube. We make sure that when we have the heavy hub motors that we're going to give you a triple thick inner tube that's going to be heavy duty and it's going to last you. It's not going to just pop on your first ride. Another really crucial item is brakes, all right? Really, really crucial. You want brand name brakes. You want to be able to stop your bike. Electric bikes are a lot heavier than a standard bike. They're going to go faster than a standard bike. You need to be able to stop, okay? You want disc brakes. Preferably you want hydraulic disc brakes. Shimano, Avid, Magura, those are some of the big names in brakes that you want to make sure you have stopping power. You want good brakes, right? You don't want any cheap brakes. Doesn't matter if it looks good and it has 203 millimeter rotor and they advertise big sizes. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they say it has 6-pot or 8-pot brakes, it's not going to stop any better. You want stopping power, you want a good brand name brake. For instance, our quad piston Magura MT7s, as shown on this bike right here, these brakes are 4-piston, but they're literally the strongest brake you can buy in the industry right now. They have the most stopping power, the most Newton meters of deceleration of any brake. And there's multiple tests out there to confirm that. So get a good brand name brake and make sure that you can look up the specs of your brake and you know that it's solid and going to provide seamless stopping power for the future for your ride. Battery size. You want to make sure that you don't get duped into range estimates that are just otherworldly, that make no sense. The most important thing when looking at a battery is watt hours. So you're going to multiply the volts of the battery and the amp hours. So for instance, if you have a 36 volt battery and it's 10 amp hours, you have 360 watt hours of available energy in that battery. All right. So if you go with industry specs, in best case scenario, around 20 watt hours per mile is pretty standard. So that 360 watt hour battery is going to take you on average maybe 18 miles or so. Okay. With electric only, 18 miles an hour. If you pedal assist, it's going to go farther. But check the watt hours of the battery and you can see if a company is trying to BS you with how far they go. So all in all with this video, I just want you guys to make sure that you're making a good informed choice. If you want to get a budget bike, it's possible. Just make sure you have good components, a good solid brand name battery, good brakes and stopping power, and make sure the company, when you call them, make sure they pick up the phone and make sure that they're knowledgeable and know about their product. Okay. If you want one of our products, great. We're happy to build a bike for you from scratch. You know, it's going to take between 2 and 4 weeks on average, but you'll have a really solid product that we really care about, and we want awesome electric bikes to get in the hands of the public. So we're excited for the future. E-bikes are the future, and we're happy to be in a position to make bikes for you guys.